Here live. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of ATL on Fire, the podcast where we talk all things Atlanta United Football Club and all things soccer in general. As always, I am joined by Dave Katz and Carmen Butler. How's everybody doing this evening?
Welcome back, Carmen.
Thank you. Y'all did such a good job. I was listening from Houston.
It fell apart.
Your job is on the line.
I know. I feel threatened, Simon Katz.
Oh.
No, but we are very happy to have you back. And it's May 1st, and we actually can have a fire. How awesome is that?
That is pretty
It's ridiculous.
Cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Last excuse to have a fire. So hopefully somebody's joining us out there on the interwebs as we talk about the last two games that Atlanta United played at Kennesaw in the U.S. Open Cup, where we lost 2-1 in a really disappointing loss against a USL team. That is not very good. And then we're unable to redeem ourselves 3 days later when we went on the road to Nashville and ended up losing 3-1 versus Nashville. And yeah, it's the Tennessee teams definitely have our number this week.
Yes. Good thing we have some French wine.
Yeah. What did you bring us?
Chateau Buscasse. I don't know how to pronounce it. My accent is terrible, but it's a beautiful French.
It's really nice.
Classic blend. Real nice.
You know, it doesn't taste like a lot of French wines, in my opinion, that have a very distinct. I don't know. There's like a earth taste. You can tell is older wine. That's
called terroir.
Terroir. Is that really what it's called?
Yeah, the earthiness.
Oh.
Yeah, that earthiness. Like
You can feel like
that's about all I can really tell most of the time with wines is like, is it California or is it maybe European wine?
Okay.
And that feels very new kind of grape. I don't know if do you agree with that, or you got the terroir happening for you?
No. I mean, I would say that there are, not just one kind of French, wine, but yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
I mean, I guess I recognize that more in like the Pinot Noirs from France, but really nice. So yeah, that's about my level of sophistication. After watching The Master Sommelier, I think on Netflix, if anyone out there likes wine, there's 2 shows on Netflix that are fantastic. People dedicating themselves to drinking red wine more so than us even, which is impressive.
The only thing that might be better than wine is Wild Heaven beer.
Yeah.
Not just any beer. Wild Heaven beer. I love that.
Yeah, what's their slogan on the ticker here, Carmen?
Well, we got offering beers inspired by the traditions of Europe and the innovation of America. Wild Heaven seeks to raise the profile of beer in the South.
Heck yeah.
I feel like that's underselling themselves a little bit. I mean, I think they are really unique.
Yeah.
Their beers are, I mean, so much of the American craft beer, movement is these hoppy American, IPAs. And I feel like they do so much more than that.
That's a really good point. Yeah. I mean, they've got a good mixture of, I don't know, even the emergency drinking beer is extremely light and kind of has a little creamy aftertaste to it. Really good stuff. So thank you, Wild Heaven, as always.
Yes.
What do we want to go to now, Dave? Any bets that we had that were won or lost?
I'm wearing my Manchester United jersey to redeem the fact that Manchester City is winning the title again. But I have to say, Mikey Dobbs, that I hate to take your prize because it was a pretty easy bet.
Well, me, I like to go against the odds. Clearly, the odds were with you on that bet. The
odds are ever in my favor.
But it gave me a chance to give you a well-deserved gift.
Okay.
For your winning team, Manchester City.
I have to say, I just want to talk about the bet. So the bet was Manchester City, Arsenal on the road at Man City, and I thought that, the problem with Arsenal is that they only know how to play one way, which is attack all the time, and which is great. It's gotten them very close to, a title this year, but you cannot do that at the Etihad in Manchester City. Manchester United tried to do that earlier this year, and it was a disaster. And I said they're just going to give up at least 3-4 goals. They're going to lose by 3.
Well, your son's statistic that Carmen said she liked the best was they haven't lost at home since 2019.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's ever going to be a stat,
They also have a streak where they haven't lost in April in like 5 years or something.
oh, that's crazy.
It's just
But see,
it
that's
means that they get, everything comes together at the end.
yes, and that's why I love Mikey Dobbs. Despite all the evidence to the contrary, he still plowed through and said,
Never
I'm
let
going to take that
evidence get
bet.
in the way of a good bet.
So
All right, shall I open it?
yeah, enjoy your reward. It's just the
So
piece of metal right in front of you
exciting.
there. I think you're gonna love it.
Lord.
You're gonna show the
Yes,
YouTube
you gotta
listeners
show
and
them.
explain what you have there in your hand. It is
I need to get it closer.
Oh,
Okay.
number 10 from Man City with
Super Jack Grealish.
Super Jack Grealish. You're welcome.
Now, it's a good segue because I'm going to hold this up later when we're talking about in the tactical board segment about why Atlanta United is not Manchester City.
So where are you gonna put that in your soccer collection? It's gonna be cherished, right?
I don't know. Now I like it because it's so crazy and cheesy. And,
Yeah.
and to be honest, Grealish, I mean, you got to love Grealish.
Well-
He's Grealish, but as a Manchester United fan, I feel like I have to, burn it or something.
Well,
You can't burn it.
I think you would have enjoyed the bobblehead more, but evidently they don't sell bobbleheads
No.
of Jack Grealish, which I
No.
would have loved to.
This is better than the bobblehead.
Okay, good.
I got to find some appropriate place.
So, Dave, on Wednesday, back
Yep.
to Atlanta United,
Oh.
you braved it on the north side of town up in Kennesaw.
I have to say, and I want to admit this for the podcast audience, because you should go do this. As bad as it is, I had a colonoscopy, which you should do at a certain age, right? And so I'm going to admit it. That's what I did, and I'm fine. But I had that in the morning, and I was still at the game at night.
Yeah, you were
Let's
one
go.
of the 100 people
I was
there
about to say,
in the
There was nobody there.
in the
It was
chilly,
empty.
kind of wet, damp
It
weather.
was
right?
wet.
Yeah.
It was nasty.
ugh.
So, I plowed through that on the YouTube, which they broadcasted on YouTube, and boy, that was a tough one. We didn't have, we had Almada, but we didn't play him,
Mhm.
and Giakoumakis was not available. So,
Right.
remind me of the starting lineup in that one. We had Diop obviously starting in goal.
Yep, it was Diop in goal, and then the back line was let's see, it was Parata and Abram in the center back. Neither Lennon nor Gutman started, so that means that out wide it was Hernandez on the right, and it must have been Wiley at left back.
Correct.
And then the center of the park, it was Sosa, it was Fortune, who was the really young kid, and it was Sadic. Yes, it was
It
Sadic.
was Sadic. Okay.
And then up front, it was
Miguel Barry.
Barry.
And on the
It
right,
was Araujo who started, and it was Tyler Wolf.
Tyler Wolf. That's right. Okay, because Tyler got the goal right out of the gates.
Yes, I mean,
Nice.
that's the only good thing we can say about Atlanta United in a long time.
Yeah.
Araujo with an absolute beautiful 40-yard diagonal ball.
Right.
Right from he was out wide right, he cut it back onto his favorite left foot. He one of the things he did was he flattened out his foot. So typically when he serves a ball like that, there's a really big hook on it.
Yeah.
And he flattened out his foot. I mean, the ball never moved. We were right behind it. It was straight in a line.
Perfect.
It was 10 yards above the pitch, and it just stayed there the whole time and got there in a hurry.
Yeah. Araujo's got a great transition ball like that.
Yes. And then Wolf brought it down well. And I have to say, glory be Stephen Glass, who had his outside backs pinching in all the time. And so even though there was a 40-yard ball over the top, this right back couldn't get back out there. Wolf walked right in and scored.
Yep.
So,
But he didn't have the best first touch, but he kept his composure and he
Yeah.
put it in the corner. So
hey, goal's a goal.
Good to see that he's, that hopefully will build a little confidence for him if he gets more minutes.
So after we started a little bit weak, a few minutes we were on the back foot, then we scored. You figure, okay, we settle, and now it's game on. We're going to steamroll them, but not so much.
I just kind of sat there and watched angrily. So my notes on this game clearly are not going to be as good as yours. It just couldn't come together. I mean, every time you're watching it, you're like, this is a USL team that is putting it on us.
So I was going to say before the game, I said, all right, one of the reasons why I went out there is because I thought we might play some squad rotation. I was worried he was going to really massively rotate. And I was like, that would be bad because, we're not good enough to do that. But to be fair, and maybe to our detriment, he didn't rotate that much, right? So we did have a couple of young guys on the pitch, right? So obviously Wiley is really young, but Wiley is an established part of our team now. So, take it for what it will. Fortune is very young. He was on the pitch, right? But he didn't. Oh no, you know what? It wasn't Abram it wasn't Parada on the pitch to begin with. It was Noah Cobb.
Noah Cobb and
Noah
Abram.
Cobb started with Abram. So Noah Cobb was on the pitch. He was really young. So I was watching to say, I wanted to see how Fortune would do, given a chance to play. In the middle, I was really looking at Cobb again, who I thought had a really good preseason and was absolutely awful in Columbus. To be fair, he's 18 years old.
Right.
I think he might even be 17. Anyway, and I was really, really watching for Abram because we keep talking about we haven't seen him, and I wanted to know whether he can really play.
Yeah, and you weren't overly impressed from what you said.
It wasn't terrible, but I didn't see. I mean, I expected Abram in this kind of a match. A veteran, Peruvian international. He's played, I think, in Spain before. I mean, he has real pedigree. And you expect him against the USL competition to be like, bring it. Like, I'm just going to dominate you. And in fairness, he hasn't played all season, so that's tough, too, just to walk right in and be 100%. But he was, and we'll talk about it on the tactical board a little bit later, but he was backing off a little bit. He wasn't really challenging for things. And I'm like, it's a USL team. Like, go in the ball. Right.
Yeah.
So I thought there were a couple times that I thought he kind of a little bit read the danger, but there were a few times that he didn't. So it was a little up and down. I didn't think that it was awful. I didn't think that I was expecting him to really look good against that competition. I didn't think that either. It was kind of,
Okay. So go around the horn. What else did you see from players?
I mean, the other guy I was looking for, Fortune, the young kid. I mean, he was absolutely invisible.
Really?
I mean, he just got lost in the game. He did nothing. Wasn't good. I mean, I'm not criticizing Fortune, because he again is 17 years old, and he might be really, really good in the future, but he's not ready yet. And I would have said the same thing about Noah Cobb, is that he once again looked like, okay, maybe he has some potential, but he doesn't look like he really reads the danger that well. He's got the physical attributes, right? He's strong, he's good on the ball, he's good in one-on-one, but what you're looking for in defenders, please. If you are developing defenders, if you want to bring along a guy at 17 and say, okay, maybe you can play for an MLS team, get us a guy who reads the game. And I thought early in the preseason, I saw some signs maybe he was, but I haven't seen it since.
Yeah. And our friend Miguel Berry, how was his performance up top, Dave?
Non-existent. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't, if you can't show up against the USL, right, and you're just invisible, then forget it.
Because he subbed Chol on later on in the game.
He did, yeah.
And within the first, I counted it, within the first 90 seconds of him being on the field, he had a threatening chance of goal, and they mentioned his name on the broadcast. I'm like,
at least he runs around.
Yeah. This whole, like, I don't know, there was an interview with him and Pineda, or I think it was him, and it was him saying, the way that they've been using him in games is, not necessarily to go on and win the game, but that makes no sense. Of course, there's been many of these games where we've needed a goal. So the narrative that we got from him in an interview like 2 weeks ago was madness. I mean, it was like, you've been in many chances where we needed a goal and you should have produced something.
I'm looking for some kind of attribute, right, for him, right? So he's big and strong. So you figure, okay, maybe he can go in the box. Every time there's a cross or whatever, I hardly see him making a run in the box. He doesn't know how to finish. Like, for a guy his size, why any coach wasn't telling him his entire career, any ball in the box, you better go challenge for it. I just don't see it because he does nothing. He's not moving around. So the defenders are very, very comfortable. Like, they're not getting pulled out of position. His skills seem pretty okay. He's got good left and right foot, but he doesn't move that much. So, he hardly ever gets on the ball.
Yeah.
He can pass okay. I've seen him, find a feet. He's got, I thought his first touch was okay, but he never makes a run in behind anybody. He never moves around. He hardly ever gets on the ball, and he can't score. So,
yeah, it's okay. Still seeing the same. All right.
Same.
Now, I mean, that's
Tyler Wolff, in contrast to that,
right.
I thought so. Tyler Wolff looked like he faded badly as the game went on because he hasn't had a lot of minutes.
Right.
Fair on him, but moving all the time.
Right.
He looked like he has a burst of speed. He looks like a guy, for example, who in the last 10 minutes of the game could really give us something. And if you're a defender, you don't want to see Tyler Wolff with 10 minutes to go because he's quick and he moves.
Is Tyler Wolff left-footed?
No, I don't think
so
he is.
We do have another right-footed forward. I just came.
Yes, we do. We're going to get to that.
So
like
Chol and Wolff can both play on the right side.
Chol is right-footed too. And Etienne, to be fair, looks very, very two-footed.
Yeah.
He's a left-footer, but he doesn't look like Wiley is a little bit left foot dominant, and Araujo, of course, is all left foot.
So this is your game to talk about. What do you want to lean into?
Well, so I mean, we're going to get to the two games combined with some tactics, and I think I want to more focus on the second game. But, because we really had more of our, true full team. Although, in fairness, like, we had a pretty good team out there. I didn't think that the lineup was super, super rotated. I don't know what.
Yeah.
It was rotated. But anyway, what I will say is that the thing that really, if I were to go right to it, right? So his very first sub. So after we scored in the 3rd minute, we were just under it the whole time. In the end of the game, Mikey Dobbs, I think they had 30 shots to our 1.
Yeah, it was.
And they had 10 shots on goal to our 1.
Yeah, somebody posted.
And they had 12 corners to our 1 or 2.
It was possession.
Serious?
Everything was.
I mean, they dominated us.
Yeah.
So anyway, so if you're watching that, you're like, okay, we got a rotated team. You're up 1-0, right? You got to figure that if I'm Pineda, I'm really worried we're going to give up the lead and lose. He didn't seem to be worried at all. So his subs were Lennon and Gutman came on first. Gutman came straight up for Wiley, and Lennon came straight up for Araujo. So Lennon actually went in as a winger, not a back. And so first of all, if we have no offense, right, and you don't have, you're not going to use Almada, you know that. You don't have Papa Giorgio, right? So, and you're under the gun the whole time, and you're thinking, to me, I was sitting there thinking, if we're going to win this game, we're going to need another goal because eventually we're going to give up one if we keep doing this. Right. So I don't really understand bringing Wiley off. I would have get Wiley up the field, give us something.
Right.
So he brought him straight off for Gutman, and now we lose another guy who could attack. And then the same thing, he brought off Araujo. Now Araujo wasn't having a great game, but again, so now who are you left with? Right. So he eventually, after that, he brought on Barry.
Our star Barry.
He brought off Barry, and he brought
0
on
goals.
Joel.
When you need a goal, bring in the guy who's got 0 goals, 0 confidence, and 0 resume.
So he brought on Chol for Barry. I would have said that would have been I would have made that move at halftime because I would have been like, we need some activity up front. But the other thing, it looked to me like those were scheduled subs, that Araujo and Wiley were our starters. They're And we know that for Nashville. And he was saying, look, you're going to play 60 minutes and that is it. Right. And the goal being that, okay, 60 minutes, the game should be over. You come off, you're ready to go for Nashville. And in fairness, you could say we were at 1-0, but I'm watching that game and I'm like, we ain't going to be up 1-0 for very long, giving up 30 shots.
Everyone was watching the game thinking that.
So if I were the coach, even if I had started out with that kind of a tactic, I would have said, sorry, I got to make an adjustment, right? I have to have somebody who can score the goal. They're going to get increasingly desperate and push someone up. Please give me a counter and finish this game off, right?
So wait. So you are expecting Pineda to make an adjustment in the middle of a game?
I would.
So he does bring on Chol. Do you remember what minute that was in?
Well, his first subs were right around 60, and that was the two backs, right?
Yeah, so that was
Chol came on a few minutes later. It had to be like
that's right,
65 or 70. And then he had Etienne came on for Sejdic, and he dropped Wolf into midfield, which also seems weird. Like Sejdic is the only proper MLS player who's still in the midfield, and he drops Wolf in there.
Yeah.
Which again seems to me like we want to get Wolf a lot of minutes in this game, which would have been pre-planned.
Yeah, but again,
you got to make an adjustment. You're watching that game. You're like, okay, yeah, we had all this plan, but we got to get through.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what I keep saying. Like Wolf is going to be misplayed and misjudged because I know you were a little down on him. You think he's not going to make it at the MLS, I think is roughly where your opinion was on him. And I was like, I think he just needs a good stretch of being put in the right situations, and he's got the movement and the talent to score.
Yep.
So
I'm not super down on Wolf.
I'm not super
high on him either.
Not super high on him. Like you felt very lukewarm on him at best, and I was a little more positive on what his potential is all I'm saying. And I think that cross and him finishing is an example of that. I mean, why not do more? I mean, he's got the ability to get into spaces like that. And anyway.
So he makes another sub. He brings on Parata for Cobb, pretty late. And I'm like, okay, so now he's saying, okay,
4-5.
We've got to kill off the game. But, in the entire thing, that was probably in the 80th minute with about 10 minutes to go. I'm like, I am not at all convinced that you can just get your good players off, keep the rotation going, and win this game. One of the things I said. So this was I wrote this in the 50th minute or something like this, right? I said when they first made the subs, actually it was 60th minute, Lennon and Gutman. I said, these subs seem to be for maintaining fitness rather than tactics when we really need to change something tactically. I think this is totally underestimating how bad we are playing, and it may cost us.
Yeah. I mean, we all were texting. You knew the goal was that goal.
Yeah,
was
you felt it coming.
Oh, it just was.
I don't think this was any phenomenal insight. But again, maybe for Pineda it was. Maybe he was just praying and get rid of it.
And what was his body language on the sideline?
You know what was interesting? Because we were like 5 feet behind him, right? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He hardly said a word to the team. Hardly a word. I mean, he's got all these new guys and things. He's not yelling at the team. There was even when we gave up the goal, right? I think I wrote it down. When we gave up the goal, I guess I didn't write it down, but anyway, when we gave up the goal, right? We're going to overtime, right? Everybody comes off, right? And the team is huddling, right? We just gave up the goal. And you would think Pineda would be lit, whatever, maybe yelling tactically or frantically, whatever. He let them huddle and he said nothing. He didn't say a word to a single player. And then as they walked back on the field, I don't know whether he was thinking about it, whatever, he realized, I didn't say something. So he ran after the team. He huddled them up again for another 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Made one comment and they went back on the field.
More passion. Do you think that's?
I don't know what it was, but I'm like, the team was sitting there for 5 minutes. Some of the assistant coaches were talking to or whatever. He said nothing. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, you just gave up the tying goal to send it into overtime against a USL team. I mean, in fairness, it's in public, it's not in the locker room, but I'm like, Alex Ferguson would have been, I mean, he's red to begin with. He might have been purple.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, oh my God.
He's heating up.
He's on fire.
Yeah, and you did text us that evening because
Yeah.
what did you say? I can say that Pineda does not seem to be worked up about it. Diop is yelling, but Pineda
Yeah,
said
Diop was
absolutely-
freaking on fire. Diop was yelling. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like,
Because he's
Eros Campoyo, right? If someone's upset about it, now you can understand why Martinez flipped the table.
Yeah.
Because probably in that game, right, they played horribly. He knew it. And still Pineda wasn't making anything.
Yeah.
He's like, he wants passion from his team all the time, but
Where is it when?
where is it when you need it? I couldn't believe it.
So, Carmen, I don't know if you noticed this, but what is Pineda normally wear in the Benz? Like, what's his?
usually he has the Burberry rain jacket.
Yeah,
or,
like a trench coat.
A trench coat.
Don't you think that would have been more appropriate for the Kennesaw game?
Yes. What did he have on? I wasn't. What did he have on?
Jeans and a shirt.
Yeah.
What in
But
heaven's name?
I mean, I don't think he's putting it together.
I don't understand
So-
what's going on. There's something missing because he's been wearing that consistently.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Even his dress tactics seem a little off. Coincidence? I think so.
So we give up the game tying goal late on a penalty kick. Parata
Mm-hmm.
sliding in when there is absolutely no reason to be sliding in.
Gigantic bonehead move.
Yeah, it was like a rush of blood to the head. I mean, if we brought on a veteran, if you're a coach and you bring on a veteran in that game to stabilize the team and say, look, you're the older statesman on this team. You've been on the team for over a year now. Calm, get it done, get it finished. And then he goes and slide tackles a guy who's not even ready to shoot. And you're like, what?
Yeah, it was just a head scratcher on
Yeah.
TV. I was like, yep, that's a penalty. That is a penalty.
And, I think a lot of people are talking about this game and a lot of this season that so many times we've failed to kill off a game, right? And they're saying, the team lacks focus and lacks passion to kill off the game or whatever. The reason we can't kill off a game is because we can't keep the ball. We cannot keep the ball when we need it, right? In that game, you're like, if we're at Memphis, no matter how bad you played, you get to the 80th minute or whatever, and they should be just keeping the ball. And they weren't doing it all. The number of times they gave it right back was just awful.
It was a hard game to watch.
Yeah.
Anything else? We're on to Nashville, where Tennessee soccer teams continue to dominate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say the same thing about, in the Nashville game, but I wrote at the end of the day, we really don't have an attacking identity. We're just Almada and Papa Giorgio, and that's it.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So, and you can see that when they're not there. They weren't there in the Columbus game. They weren't there in this game. And when they're not there, yeah. I actually am going to argue even in the Nashville game when Almada is there and still no Papa Giorgio, and we still looked.
Right. Yeah.
Nah.
We had possession and a little more positive in the first half in that game, but yeah, then it went flat.
Yes.
So let's move on to Nashville. Another beautiful Saturday here in Atlanta. Watched the game on the back deck. It was great. And as that game started, I was in pretty good spirits the first bit of that game.
I liked the lineup. What did you think?
I liked it too. I think.
I mean, considering there was no Papa Giorgio.
Yeah,
right?
consider there's no Papa Giorgio. As you and I have discussed, I would rather see Ibarra in front of Sosa.
Yeah.
And they played Josetu, who's just not getting it done. And then that was probably my biggest issue with the lineup is I would rather see Ibarra. I don't know if he's injured or whatever from that tackle but yeah, I would have liked to see Ibarra in there. And frankly, I would have liked to have seen Hernandez playing right fullback. I'm just going to say what my opinion is. I think he should be playing right fullback over Lennon, and Lennon should be coming in.
Now, Hernandez did not have a great game in Memphis when he got the full game. Now, but
But it's how do you judge an individual when their whole team is playing like ass? Like
Yeah.
I didn't completely watch him
Yeah.
like with a laser, but
Yeah.
he certainly didn't he wasn't like the sore thumb in anything in that
Nope.
game.
No.
So
yeah.
and the reason I say that is because of the way Lennon defended in the Nashville game. So when you can't go up and win a header, and then you get yellow card for not doing anything, but still you're facing the ball, you should go up and head it. I mean, how do you not win a simple head ball? And how does the referee give a yellow card on that? Anyway, I think we're on to the Nashville game, Dave.
Yep.
Would have liked to gone up there and done the podcast. We talked about doing that. Unfortunately, I'm probably the one who dragged us down.
It's all good. We didn't want to be at that game anyway.
Right.
So you did us a favor.
So I think start off positive in that game, or do we? Did we start off with a goal in that one?
No, but we started off on the front foot.
We started off that's right. We started off on the front foot. So like my first observation of just like the first half in general was we had good possession. We were moving the ball around with purpose, created some chances. And just maybe it was just because we looked so much better than we did against Memphis that I was somewhat pleased with like how the game was like at least not painful to watch. I felt like we're playing better soccer in most of the first half. What did you see in terms of the same tactics maybe that had trickled over from the Memphis game?
Well, the interesting thing is in the Memphis game, right from the very, very beginning, we had the super airplanes, right? I mean, it was almost like Hernandez and Wiley in that game were like, coach says we don't even have to defend it all. 2 is fine in the back, right? And so they were, I think as I'll get to the tactical board, Pineda feels very strongly that that's what we should do if we're on the front foot, and that's our best lineup, our best tactic. And as long as I think he has started to realize that when we only have 2 in the back, we sometimes give up terrible goals. But he's like, against Memphis, we're not going to do that. So let's do this.
Yeah.
But as I'm going to point out on the tactical board, it's not working offensively either. And that's the problem I have. So it's one thing if it was just generating tons and tons of chances, but it's not, right? So anyway, one of the things I was looking for right from the kickoff is, all right, well, are we going to have, now we have Lennon and Gutman starting again, and are we going to have airplanes? And the answer was no. So they actually were not, super all the way back, but they were very appropriately pushed a little bit in front of the front 2, and they were only going when it was really on.
Yep.
So I think that was a nod to we're playing on the road against a good team in Nashville. So that's a tactic that was changed. Good on us. And what I want to point out is that Lennon in that first half was terrific because he was further back and he was getting up with actual timing.
Yeah.
He was really, really effective in that half, in the first half.
Yeah. Until the second goal, when he was back, by the way, when the keeper cleared it and couldn't get up and win a simple header. I mean, it's simple as that.
We're talking about the second goal.
Second goal. Let's talk about the first goal.
Mm-hmm.
The first goal, I don't know what set up the release of Mukhtar down the left side, but he goes bombing down the left on a ball that was played out wide to him from somebody, and he just blazes down the sideline, cuts into the box. And
I think you're talking about the second goal.
Is that
the first goal was a corner kick?
You're right. Sorry.
So the one thing I was going to say is that, Diop came out of the Memphis game as the guy who got the most credit. He made a couple of sensational saves.
He did.
I mean, he cut a double save in there. I mean, he was, and he's always been known as a shot stopper, right? He's very athletic, very quick, or whatever. His weakness, which I said, and maybe I'll even go back to what I wrote in that actual game against Memphis, is that Diop has been terrific. His shot blocking ability is excellent. We have yet to see his positional nightmares, right? Which is what he's known for, right? So one thing I will say is that in this Nashville game, they had a series of corners early.
Yeah.
And not just on the corner we gave up the goal, but on the 2 ones previous to that, he comes flying up, flapping, and doesn't get anywhere close to the ball.
So I'm glad. Yeah, this is the first goal. Is an in-swinger corner kick to the near post. We have 3 defenders that are right there, clustered right in front of Diop. At the
and they get beat by a great leap by Zimmerman.
Zimmerman flicks it just a bit. Okay, but here's the thing: Diop made the decision to come off his line to punch it. He needed to murder everybody in his way.
He was never getting there. He would have had to go through 3 of our defenders and 2 of their players. He didn't even come within a yard of that.
John
ball.
Mills would have got through them. You come off your line. You got to push. You got to knock everybody out of the way. I don't know.
What I would say is, why come off the line at all when you have 3 defenders who are there to challenge for that ball? Why wouldn't you just stay back?
That's exactly it.
Right.
So that's when I watched this replay. I'm like, we had 3 guys there. Zimmerman did make a nice flick. If he'd have stayed home when you had 3 guys clustered there, I think there would have been less confusion, and maybe even one of our defenders would have gotten a head off the flick. There would have just been less. Like he actually,
yeah, because sometimes when the goalkeeper is coming, you don't get to the ball yourself because you're like, oh, he's got to get it.
Yeah, and he kind of, they didn't see him. They were their backs to him, and he came out, and he should have completely cleaned them out and gotten to the ball. Instead, he kind of cleaned them out and left the line open. Exactly. That's and so
and he did that 3 in a row.
Yeah.
3 in a row, he came for balls that he had no business getting to. He wasn't going to get there. He didn't get close to any of them, right? And that one, if he stays at home, they flick it. He probably just catches that.
Yeah. And it wasn't a mystery that there were 3. Like I went and watched it over and over again. It wasn't a mystery that we had 3 of our biggest guys right up on the.
Yeah, it was Robinson. It was Parada. We had it all. They were loading up that front post. They were clearly, Zimmerman was the target, and we were ready for it.
Yeah, we were ready for it.
And they challenged. Even when Zimmerman got the flick, he was under a ton of pressure. He was off balance, and he got just a basic flick on it. It wasn't like he got an open, free power header into the goal. It just skimmed off his head and kept going across the middle. The problem was Diop was all the way up there, and he was like, oh, what's behind me? And then it was a tap in at the back post, and they had 3 guys open at the back post. The only one who was possibly reading the danger was Gutman, which is not good. But again, to me, yes, you can argue Gutman should have gotten to that ball. You should have argued we had it better marked up. But at the end of the day, the thing that I thought was the biggest problem is you can't have a goalkeeper at the MLS level flapping at the ball and the ball going in behind him. Anytime you come as a goalkeeper, you don't get close to it and the ball goes past you. That's almost for sure a goal, right? Because anything that gets touched is going in the goal, right? So you can't do that.
Yeah. That's what I mean. If he's coming off, he better be confident and clear everybody and punch that thing.
Yes.
And he did. He kind of came out weak too. And he should have stayed home because we had 3 people there. All right. On to the second goal. I was just talking about. Mukhtar gets released down the line. Do you remember?
Yes.
I mean, it seemed like we were okay.
So what happened on that play is that Miles Robinson was marking a guy at midfield, and he checked back to the ball. And Miles Robinson went with him and got right on his back like he should have. So they played it to his guy, and
Parata was out on Mukhtar, I believe.
Yeah. So what happened was, Miles Robinson was right on his guy about 10 or 15 yards beyond the half field line in Nashville's end. And he forced his guy to just play it back. So he made a 1-touch pass back. I don't think it's on the clip. But he forced his guy to make a 1-touch pass back. Okay. So that's good, right? So instead of coming out and having a guy have all day to turn and play a ball late, play a ball wherever he wants to, which is what happened on the 3rd goal, he was on him, right?
Yeah.
So it went back, and then it was kind of a long ball. So Parata had all day to go read in behind him and be like, okay, where's the danger? It's Hani Mukhtar, right? So,
but do you want Parata matched up against the fastest guy in the field? Why is that
I don't
happening?
have a problem with Parata being matched up against Mukhtar at midfield, because 2 things. So Robinson had been really well to pressure that ball, and Gutman actually was all the way over to help. It was 2v1. They weren't. So I think they clearly said that Mukhtar can't be one-on-one.
Yeah.
So Gutman was there. But the thing about Parata is that he consistently is afraid to try to win the ball at midfield. He's afraid of Hani Mukhtar's pace, or whatever. So instead of what he should have been,
he lays off him and just keeps
he
backing up.
just laid off of him. What he should have been is right on him. And when Hani Mukhtar made an awesome turn or whatever, just foul him.
Yeah, foul him, or let Gutman come in and try to
get or let Gutman be the second guy and you do it. You cannot have Miles Robinson going and pressuring up the field and then having Purata sag back off 10 yards. That's a disaster.
Yeah. So, then he just blazes down, cuts into the box. Again, Purata's backing off into the box. Backing. And so Mukhtar does a couple of step overs, rips it far post. Diop, I would say, did a nice save. It was pretty hard ball to collect. I think I'd be critical of him if I said he should have saved it. But
if he did really well, he could have held on to it.
If he did really well.
But it wasn't really a mistake.
A mistake. And then it comes off his hands and there's somebody crashing the goal to finish it.
Yep.
So
what I would say is what I think you should take away from that play is that ball forward to Mukhtar started with Robinson right on the back of a guy, forcing him to play back to a back who was about a little bit outside his own 18-yard. He was pretty far back.
Mm-hmm.
That should be a position that is a win for Atlanta United. If their first ball comes out and that guy is forced to play it backwards, now it should be that's the time where you pressure and win it, right? And again, the problem there is he was under pressure, just said, okay, give it to the back. The left back was under pressure. He just kicked it up the field. And Hani Mukhtar was 20 yards wide open.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. You can't have two guys working their butts off to get pressure and then a release valve where it wasn't a great ball. He just looped the ball up the field and Mukhtar was like, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
You have got to, if you're going to do that, Purata has got to be on his guy and up the field and challenge for that. Right. If you're not going to do that, then Robinson should never go forward, whatever. And we should play saggy, bottom defense.
Yeah. So we're down 2-0 and we are able to luckily salvage a penalty kick. We're at the top of the 18. Somebody plays it across the top of the box to, I think it's Josetu.
It was a beautiful set of balls that ended up, I think it was Lennon who found back to Josetu.
Yeah. Lennon to Josetu. And at first I didn't think it was a penalty kick. I thought that Josetu kind of almost faked a spin dive, but whoever it was from Nashville did drive their knee into the back of his leg. And as soon as that contact was made, especially in this day and age, when it goes to VAR, they're going to call that a penalty. I didn't love it. I mean, it was definitely one where, in a world where there's not VAR, I would have been like, don't give that. But when you watch the VAR,
live, the ref was not going to give it.
Yeah. So and live, it didn't look like, my first blush on it was no penalty. But in the VAR, I looked and it was one of those where you almost, his knee did drive it right into the back of his leg.
It was reckless from Dax McCarty. He just rammed right into it.
It was, and it was really hard to see without the camera view. And they did show the camera view, even the camera view that wasn't zoomed in and great. But from the right angle, you're like, okay, that is a PK. So,
I thought it was a penalty right from the beginning.
My favorite part of the game, though, was our common cool penalty taker.
Oh my!
Just made the goalkeeper just freeze and look like a bobblehead. It was kind of awesome. And then he ran to go get it out of the goal, and the goalkeeper punted it. And he tried to do like a shake his hand, and then he pulled his hand back, and the goalkeeper like a second later, it was kind of aweson.
He was mocking him.
Yeah, it was a good mocking of just being totally iced. So yeah, good on Almada for a nice PK. So then you're like, okay, this game,
got a chance,
right? But no.
The last goal,
I have a strong opinion, having watched it a couple times now.
Okay,
I'm really shocked that one of the best athletes in the field didn't hustle as hard as I think he should have.
Miles Robinson?
Yes.
Yeah, it was interesting that the guy actually was able to outpace Miles Robinson, and he just ran by him.
Miles Robinson did not give 100% on that play.
I think he was really frustrated.
Yeah.
Right. There's a bunch of players who are frustrated. But so what I would say is, so what happened on that one is, so we are needing a goal. It's very late.
Yeah.
right? And so, I think Miles Robinson, everybody else, front foot, try to get it back, give us as many chances as possible. Right. And, so he was trying to get back from a very aggressive attacking spot, and he got next to him, and then he let the guy run by him. But the thing about that play, again, it starts out with Nashville under pressure in their own right corner.
Yeah, and Mukhtar again turns and spins.
So in that play, so he has brought on now Abram.
It was the classic type of thing where it's the counter that you always want when it releases out of the back to Mukhtar, and then we turn and go. That's not what we don't see that from Atlanta.
But here's the thing, and I realized, so first of all, I found out at Memphis that it's Abram, not Abram. Okay. Abram, and rhymes with Philip Lahm.
I did hear that. I did hear that on the broadcast. Someone was saying Abram.
Anyway, but so Abram is clearly was the guy back with Robinson being really aggressive, and Hani Mukhtar is there. And again, Hani Mukhtar goes back towards his own goal, and Abram is afraid to go with him. And here's my thing, Mikey Dobbs. Okay, it's 90th minute or whatever it was. It was very late.
Yeah,
we're down 1 goal, right?
Oh, there was a good 20 yards between him and that ball being released. He takes it down on his chest and spins it. Yeah, so there was nobody putting pressure on him.
But he started out on that play, which you couldn't quite see in the replay, but he started out on that play like 5-7 yards behind Mukhtar.
Yeah,
Mukhtar goes back to the goal, and he wanted no part of it, which I am flabbergasted. So first of all, in my opinion, he should always be, if you got a guy like Mukhtar who's so good on the ball, is quick and fast or whatever, what do you want to do? You want to deny him the ball, or if at least he gets it, don't let him turn. And if he turns you, then foul him.
Yeah.
Right. That's what you want as a coach. Right. So even if you weren't going to do that the whole game, it's the 90th minute. How could you slack off off of their best player in the 90th minute? Because we have got to keep the ball in their end. And honestly, if you gamble and lose, who cares?
It's a perfect example in the Manchester City Arsenal game where I think it's Holding or whoever's defending Holland.
Yes.
Like he was on his back too aggressively in that situation.
Yep.
He should have been there, but not quite that aggressive.
Yeah.
But it just shows like you got a great player like that. You got to be up and on him. And in that case, it's Erling Haaland, so he's able to just trap it and turn and pass.
I mean, to me, if you're a defender, right, and I mean, it's sort of, I think, counterintuitive for a lot of the fans out there. If you're a defender and you're playing a guy like Erling Haaland or Hani Mukhtar in the MLS, who's one of the quicker, bigger, stronger players, right, it's like, do you remember Seabiscuit when they say if that beast gets loose, you're never going to catch him?
Yeah.
That's exactly it. You cannot, if you're a defender, like if I were defending that guy, I'd be like, ain't no way he's getting more than a foot away from me.
In his ear.
Because I'm going to either try to beat him to the ball, right? If not, I'm going to body him up. And if he turns me or whatever, I'm going to foul him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. And so you cannot let a guy like that consistently, like we did in this game, turn and run at the defense. It's just ridiculous.
That was,
sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
He's heating up. He's on fire.
All great points. Was Paratz on a yellow card though on that second goal where Mukhtar? It's the only reason because he should have fouled him, right? To your point, or been up higher on him. Was there any trepidation from him because he was on a yellow card? I can't remember. It's pretty early on in the game.
Remember him being?
It
was second half, beginning of the second half.
Yeah.
I don't remember him being on a yellow card, but
maybe on that would be the only reason. But
the thing about it is, I mean, what I am noticing about that with both Parata and with Abram is that they're doing it all the time, right? Which means this is not a yellow card thing for them. They just, that's not how they're doing it. So This has got to be coached. Both of them are big physical guys. Both of them are not slow, but they're not the fastest. Miles Robinson, who they have, is fast, right? So in my opinion, they have to be taught to go fight at midfield, right? And actually win the ball.
Yeah.
Win the ball.
Carmen brought it up. He didn't get a yellow card till later on in the game. So
yeah. So I don't get it. And as we're going to get to in a minute, this is part of what was the trifecta of disaster in this game in the last week, tactical board speaking wise. And I'm going to explain to you.
Let's do it. Let's go tactical board here.
Tactical board.
Tactical board. I'd go full screen with that tactical board. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. So we have this cool little tool called tactical board for those listening on the podcast. And Dave is going to move some of our players around to show what he saw in the last two games. And we have, again, Diop in goal, Robinson, Parata, Gutman, and Lennon in the back, Sosa, Huzetu, Almada, Araujo, Wiley, and Chol on the field.
Okay, I'm going to start with something that we've been talking about a lot, or 2 points that we've been talking about a lot, and I'm going to show you. So in this game against Nashville, Araujo was awful again, right? And there was a lot of people 3 times in the second half. He got the ball and he just made terrible passes. I mean, just awful passes. What happened was he got the ball right where he is on the tactical board here. He got it maybe a little bit out wide or whatever, but his first touch was inside onto his favorite left foot. Lennon was making the run around the back, and he tried to play the ball in behind over here to Lennon, and he basically couldn't execute it, and it got intercepted right here. Okay.
Yep.
So this is happening all the time, and I think Araujo has got to do better.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? Do we want Araujo feeding in Lennon behind their left back, or do we want somebody feeding in Araujo behind the right back?
We keep saying it.
It's ridiculous. I mean, at this point, one of the big mysteries of the entire season is what the hell has happened to Araujo? Like, who shot Araujo? Where's he gone? He's just disappeared, right? And the thing about it is Araujo is getting the ball every time, and he's getting the ball in here. He's moving the ball. First touch is inside, and because Lennon is taking this wing spot all the time, right? So first of all, he's not right-footed, so his natural inclination is not to go down there. He can't go down there anyway because all he's going to do is dribble right into Lennon.
Yeah.
Right? So people are asking what happened to Araujo. What happened to Araujo is Lennon, right? Yeah. Lennon is taking the role that Araujo was meant to play. Araujo, newsflash, is never, ever, ever going to be good unless you're playing him in behind people. Yeah. What is he good at? He's big and he's fast, right? And he has good skills when he's on the ball there. He is not good in tight spaces, right? He is not the kind of guy. I mean, I think he would love to be that guy, but he's not that guy.
He would love to be that. He thinks he is in his head, but he's great, to your point, when he can get the ball and look with 10 feet of space and say, "You're mine. I'm going to take you on," and push it past somebody.
Right.
And or, to your point, in this situation, if it's reversed, if Lennon can play him through, I mean, he's going to do some real damage.
Yep. So that's problem number one.
Yet we know for a fact, Dave, that is not changing. It is the whole right side of the field is designed for Lennon to be the focus.
I agree, but I could fix it.
Yeah, let's see.
And I've already told you that, but I'm going to fix first. I'm going to tell you all the problems, and then I'm going to fix it. Okay. So second problem, right? So Gutman was staying at home a lot. So when Lennon was flying up on the right side, he was not, which is good. Okay. But what's interesting is even though he was staying at home, he was kind of back here like this. And so they had a guy out wide out here, and Gutman wasn't going to mark this guy. They were asking Wiley to track that guy. Right?
Right.
So here's another problem. So if you're going to have 3 guys stay in the back like Gutman, they have to actually defend. Right? Gutman cannot be holding Parata's hand. Yeah. And maybe he's afraid of what Parata can't do, and Parata's not willing to challenge at midfield. We're going to get to that in a second. But you cannot ask Wiley as one of your front 3 to be marking in behind Gutman. Yeah. Because, again, Wiley wins the ball, and this happens sometimes, right? Wiley wins the ball in this one-on-one situation here, and Wiley's trying to play to Wiley.
Yeah.
Right? So here's his ball to Wiley. Oh.
Yeah. No one up.
Where is Wiley?
Where's Wiley?
Right, Wiley's
Yeah.
all the way back there. Wiley, as good as he is, and he's really good,
Can't clone himself.
he can't play a ball to himself 30 yards
Yeah.
and get there. Like it's never gonna happen. So that's problem number 2. Problem number 3 is where we got absolutely killed in the midfield of this game. I mean, we got annihilated in the center of the park, right? And here's why. So first of all, and I hate to say this, but if you're going to play Pineda's system, it has to be Sejdic. It cannot be Rossetto. Sejdic is actually made for his system, and I'll show you why.
I'm not going to disagree from what I've seen when we're
People have
successful.
noticed that Sejdic, when Sejdic is playing, they do better. And here's why. So, because here's the problem. Rossetto actually moves too much. So Rossetto actually in this game was acting like an attacking midfield. So he was running a lot of times in here. Chol was here. Almada was here. You know, maybe we're playing down the lines in here. I'll move everybody up just so it's more realistic, right? Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Wiley was out here. Gutman was holding Parada's hand. Okay, so let's say it's like this. And here's my problem, right? So when we turn the ball over, so let's say this was one of Araújo's really bad passes again. He was trying to feed in Lennon. This happened, right? And so when this ball turned over, so Araújo was trying to play wide to Lennon, but he played it to their left back. Okay, Rossetto had made so many runs in here and Parata is so worried about their number 9, right? So Parata's actually only here. He's not up challenging. Sosa is aware of this. So Sosa is actually closer to Parata than what you think. Look what's happened here.
Yeah. Just that gap.
There is an enormous gap. And the number of times that they so easily played to here and got to run out was ridiculous. Okay. So there has to be several things that happen, right? So first of all, if you're going to play this system, you cannot play Rossetto because Rossetto actually moves too much. He makes runs forward, which you might say is great because that might be more dangerous, but he doesn't score, right?
Yeah.
So it's not actually helping us that much.
Yeah, he had one shot from about 25 yards out, was struck well, but
Yeah.
we know the stats on shooting from that distance.
Right. And Rossetto is never going to score from there. So Sejdic never makes that run, right? Sejdic is this spot all the time,
Yes.
right?
Like, yeah,
So at least that means, and Sejdic is not a good defender.
he'll ticky-tack his way in there, but he won't just push up there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The only time Sejdic ever gets into the box is if we're literally on the end line, right? So when Sejdic is playing, that means that we at least have 2 in the midfield because Almada is always a free roll. He's doing everything, whatever. So if that's the case, now we at least have 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Even that is actually not working that well because, again, where I'm showing you the problem, Parata is not willing to step up on the guy, right?
Yeah.
So what should happen is Parata should be up on his guy, which means Sosa can get up the field a little bit. Sejdic is not going home. And could you imagine if when they turned the ball over, they were looking at that?
Yeah, and then Sejdic can, if he gets it, pass it to Almada. I will give him that much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's good at that. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. A couple of times.
He knows his role, I guess, is the
He's good at moving the ball on.
good at
So if
moving the ball
Sosa
on.
intercepts and gets it to him, he'll play one
Yeah.
touch to Almada. That's what he does well.
Yeah.
He's like, my job is to get the ball to Almada, which
So-
is all right.
Yeah, which is all right with where we and I agreed in the last podcast, the one before, like in this system, he seems to be playing better than our other options, but not Ibarra.
And the reason why he looks better in this system is we look better defensively in this system. And the reason why we look better defensively is because he doesn't move. Sejdic never moves, which actually makes him terrible offensively. He's not a great option. He doesn't really move around that much. He's good on the ball, but he doesn't move around a lot.
Yeah.
Right. But what you need, if you're going to play one of those guys, so Pineda is so rigid. He thinks we need a defensive midfield, we need a ball playing midfield, and we need an attacking midfield. And he will never deviate from that. Right. So in this system, we don't really need so much a ball playing midfielder because Sosa and Ibarra can both pass, right? So here's what I'm saying what we should happen. It's never going to happen. But Sejdic shouldn't be in here either. He's much better than Josetu. But if this was Ibarra, right? Now, Ibarra hunting here is really dangerous because, as you know, he can tackle.
He's
occasionally, he gets a little rush of blood to his head, but that's okay for a guy who's not the true defensive midfielder. He has Sosa behind him reading the game really well. Ibarra is like an all-action kind of guy. And Ibarra and Sosa can both pass. So why do we need a ball-playing midfielder who doesn't move and who doesn't play defense? Why don't we get a ball-playing midfielder who does play defense in Ibarra?
Yeah.
It's just classic. We have to have this stereotypical guy, right? We got to have the guy. It's the Nogby role. But Nogby, if you notice, so Nogby is like Sejdic on steroids because he's so much better on the ball. He moves without the ball and whatever. He's so good. He never loses it. He's like a Sejdic plus, and he actually plays defense too. Yeah. So he's better defensively. And so if you had a Nogby, sure, right? Nogby would be that role. But what I would argue for this team, Ibarra is better in that role than Sejdic. And it's okay if you now have two guys go hunting and really the only guy who wants to get on the ball is Almada.
Yeah, so that's more of the pivot with Sosa.
It can be a double pivot. You can one in front of another, fine, whatever. But that has to happen. And Parata has to get up and actually mark this guy. Right. If you had that and you had these two guys, and if Lennon wasn't in here touching here, but was actually in a normal position, right? And every time we lost the ball, it looked like that. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that has to happen is Araujo and Lennon are a disaster together.
Total disaster.
Because Araujo is just dying.
They have no chemistry. And
he's dying.
This is what I was saying. And this is going to, first off, nothing's going to change. Everybody's going to say, oh, we're third in the table. And this is what I worried about at the beginning of this podcast this season, is that Pineda's going to drag us into perfect mediocrity of being in fourth or fifth place.
Yeah.
And everybody being like, he's doing okay. We're fourth or fifth place. Is that really where Atlanta United should be as a club in general, as far as expectations and with the talent that we have?
Right.
I don't think anybody believes that.
So Taylor Twellman actually stated that he was looking at the table with Atlanta in third and he thought it was flattering. He's like, I've watched them play and I don't think they're a third place team.
No, I don't think so either.
I happen to agree with him.
It's incredible we're in third place.
Yeah, we're a little lucky. I mean, the late show with the corner kick last week against Chicago, Almada just totally bailing us out of nothing, right? I mean, now we have also conceded some late goals for ties too, but I don't think we've been good enough. The bottom line is that when this is not Chol, when this is Papa Giorgio, right? It's very clear that Almada and Papa Giorgio, particularly with Wiley in them, is dangerous.
It's like on that team that's like average that you play and there's one other good player. You've been on those teams.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I was like, there were moments where I was one of the two that were the better on the best. You can feel it, right? Like there's a connection.
Yeah.
You just know, you're like, hey, and if you do it right, everything happens. And yeah, those two definitely have that type of energy they bring, and they're not always going to be on the field at the same time. And Almada might be gone as soon as summertime hits. So
one of the things I think we've learned from Pineda is that, any deviation from our best. So when we have every single player available to us and we have such a better squad than the teams we're playing against, then he can win more games probably than not. So, I think he's a okay coach, right? He can win with the better talent sometimes. The moment we don't have those players available, Almada and Giakoumakis not available in Columbus, get annihilated, right? He doesn't play Almada and Giakoumakis against Memphis, we lose, right? He has no answer for the team. The way in which, for example, during our title winning season, There were times when Almiron was out for like a month,
Yeah.
right? And we still, through Villalba and other players, we still managed to win games.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite as dynamic as when we had everybody, but we had an identity. We stuck to it and we won. This team will never win without the best players available. When the best players available, they will win some games, right? But they will not finish at the top, towards the top of the table. It's
So,
never going to happen.
But are you saying that our talent isn't good enough in terms of depth, or the coaching doesn't know how to make the lower level talent on the roster perform a certain way?
I think the coaching's not good enough.
Yeah.
If the coaching were better, we would do better when we had our full team, and we would also win sometimes when we didn't have our full
right.
team.
Yeah.
So now the other thing I was going to say, the obvious thing is Araujo has to be here, right? And Wiley has to be here. Wiley is much better operating in tight spaces, right? Wiley is a little bit more two-footed, right? If Araujo is ever going to be saved at all, he has to be.
And I think the chemistry between Wiley and Lennon will be better. And
yes,
Almada tends to drift out to that left side a little bit more for what I'm seeing.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's
I mean, Almada out here, he's done a wonderful job of playing in Wiley. Could you imagine if he playing in Araujo?
And frankly, as much as Gutman can get up and bomb up the left, I think he's smart enough to look up and be like, oh, sweet, I don't have to make that run. I can pass it on to
he doesn't make that run that much. But the other thing that Gutman is about as good as I've ever seen is the underlap. He makes this run through here.
Yeah.
So if he makes this run through here and the defender can't go out to address,
and he's got to, well, even if let's say Araujo has it, right? Like he's got to stay honest.
Yeah.
Because then Araujo can cut in.
Yes. Now he can run at him and he's history, right? Yeah. So that's where I love. Gutman is a natural player to play with Araujo because when he does go forward, he goes underlap a lot.
Right? I love it.
So this is the way we need to play. So Robinson and Parata need to be always aggressive, playing up the field, marking their guys, right? And they need to win the ball at midfield, right? We can't have Sosa bailing out Parata. What we need is, if the ball is out here or whatever on this side, then Parata is right with his guy. And Robinson is a little bit off, right? And Lennon actually has to play defense.
And I feel like this starting lineup gives us depth, right? On the left, you got Etienne, who can come in for Araujo to give him a break. On the right, you either got Chol or Wolf if he starts to get in any sort of form. Yeah.
To me, in this lineup, you have, Etienne coming late for either Wiley or Araujo. You have Wolf that can come in for either of those guys. You have Chol that can come in for Giakoumakis. Sejdic can come on late, or, you can occasionally play, a moment where you have him instead of Ibarra or something.
And then, then you can bring in Hernandez and push Lennon up even to Wiley. Yep. There's options there.
Yep. This is the way we need to play. Right. And what killed us in this game, Rossetto was awful. I mean, but also the other thing is Rossetto was making too many runs for this system. When he makes a run, so we'll go back to the original thing, right? So if it was Rossetto instead of Ibarra, and I'll show you how different it is. Take a mental picture of where it was, right? Because Parata is sagging, which means that Sosa can't be attacking. He's sitting like right in front of him here, right? Rossetto is making runs along with Almada, and suddenly, look at the whole midfield. And this is what happened. If you go back and watch the tape, right? Every time we turned the ball over, they had an easy outlet right into the center of the field. We got killed in there. And people are looking at Sosa and saying, okay, Sosa he's not closing it down or whatever. There is no player on the planet who can win that 1v3 when you're also supposed to be helping your center back. Sosa is not Superman. He can't be helping here, getting up to challenge here. There's just no way.
So, Dave, you're going to give Carmen's seat back? Or are we going to stay at the tactical board forever? You're in your sweet spot right now.
We might stay.
Come back to the fire, Dave. Come back to the fire, Dave. Well done. That was awesome.
It was nice having you over here. Yeah. Though.
So hopefully, if you're still with us on the podcast portion of this, you have some mental notes of what was just described. If not, go over to our YouTube channel, subscribe at ATL on Fire. Hopefully, Simon Katz will get some edits of this, so we got a quick 20-minute.
Yeah, we
short of that.
apologize for those only listening on the podcast. It's really hard to follow the tactical board on that, but we think it's worth enough doing it that you might have to go over to the YouTube channel.
That is really good stuff. Really good stuff, Dave.
That was the problem.
Good stuff on the tactical.
Can we get back to celebrating Atlanta United? It's going to be a long road, isn't it?
I think we are on the road to slipping towards mediocrity.
I know. Man,
Now, in fairness, there are times where Almada and Giakoumakis can literally just carry us, right? They're good enough to do that, but the system is not good enough. He hasn't figured out the strengths and weaknesses. You know, we have good center backs, but we're not using them properly. I mean, the number of times we're just making mistake after mistake. And, you know, I was actually, one of the things I forgot I was going to tell you is, so this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Jack Grealish. Okay. You know, you might argue, people who are real tactical, you know, soccer fans, they might say, wait, hold the phone. Right. Manchester City basically does the same thing. They play inverted wingers. They have their outside backs push forward all the time. Right. And so here's the difference. So first of all, well, yeah, there's something talent. So like, for example, Jack Grealish, right? Jack Grealish is never going to run by someone pure speed. No. He's good with his feet dribbling at people, right? That's what he's really good at in spaces, in tight spaces.
He's very good at dribbling in tight spaces and making defenders foul him.
Yes. So if you have
that's a skill.
Yes.
It's
if you have Jack Grealish, you have no problem with playing an inverted winger because you want him coming in, dribbling in and getting fouled, right? He's never going to be a good, you know, a classic winger with his strong foot, because if you play him out wide, he's never going to run by someone. He's not Araujo. And that's the thing. If you're Pineda and you're watching Manchester City and you're thinking, I'm going to do the same thing as Man City, forget the fact that Man City has a lot more talented team. But for the MLS, we have a team that's pretty good, right? And if you think that the strengths of Araujo are the same as the strengths of Jack Grealish, you got another thing coming. And the other guy who he plays over there is Mahrez. He has Bernardo Silva. All of those guys play inverted because they can get into those tight spaces. That's what you want. Not a single one of them is going to run by you.
Yeah.
That's what he wants, is ticky-tacky in there. When we have our wingers, Wiley, Araujo, they're built to run by people. Don't play them inverted.
Yeah. There are airplanes. We keep saying that. Wiley and Araujo are airplanes.
Right. We got the wrong guys on the runway.
Yeah, we do. So, anything else to talk about Atlanta United? Who do we have next? We have Miami next on the road.
Thank God. Anybody can get healthy against Miami.
Yeah.
Phil Neville's a terrible coach.
And our boy Joseph is he's
struggling.
He's got 0 goals.
Yep.
Seriously?
Zero?
Zero.
Oh.
Yeah. So not good. Not good. We certainly are happy to have the Greek as a substitute.
Yes.
So win against Miami.
Yeah, if you can't win against Miami, it's a really long season.
Because
but right now, you know, not only are we not having a system that's working really well for us, you can see, and it's, you know, it's on Pineda, right? So last season, he said we had bad apples, right? He said Joseph Martinez had a bad attitude, right? And we got to get rid of him or whatever. Honestly, in this last game against Nashville, you know who looked exactly like Joseph Martinez on the field? Almada. He looked frustrated. He wasn't working that hard. He was yelling at people, right? He's frustrated. You cannot play that poorly tactically and keep good players in the mold, right? They just can't.
Yeah, like Miles letting up the 3rd goal.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Miles Robinson, you might say.
Well, he didn't let up, but he could. I think he was athletic enough to prevent it.
Yes, and that is a classic example. So are you going to sit here and say that Miles Robinson has a bad attitude? Have you ever seen him have a bad? but he's frustrated enough that very first moment, instead of really busting to get it back, he put his head down for a second and let the guy run by him.
Yep. And then when it counted at the end, that last little turbo juice, he wasn't willing to give it.
Yeah. Or he was spent. He was frustrated. He'd gone forward and he was just like, forget it.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
So really, do you think we're going to beat Miami just because the Miami team just doesn't have their shit together with
they're
level?
really bad.
Yeah. Because I mean, to be fair, Nashville was a decent team, right? They've got 2 seasoned U.S. men's, not seasoned, but U.S. men's national team level players with
Shaq Moore
and Walker Zimmerman, right? And then they've got the reigning MVP. So they've got some players.
They're a good team, but the thing about Nashville is Nashville can't score except for us. Against us, right? So that's the thing, right? So Nashville can be frustrating. They're very good defensively. They're hard to break down.
Because Mukhtar had a slow start to the season, but Mukhtar can score.
He has not had a slow start to the season. He actually is ahead of his MLS MVP numbers. That's what they said in the game. Last year at this point, he had like 4 goals and he had like 5 assists. And this year he has 5 goals and like 7 assists or something. He's ahead of last year's pace.
Okay. I thought the commentators made some comment of him not being on pace, but
I don't think so.
I will trust you on that. I'll go with you on that.
But anyway, they can't score.
Yeah.
And the only guy who can score for them is Hani Mukhtar. So if you design a system to really shut him down, right, you can go into Nashville and, at worst you get a tie because they can't score, right? They're just not a good offensive team overall. And we made them look like a better offensive team than they are because when you give a guy like Hani Mukhtar on both of those goals, so the third goal, it was Hani Mukhtar who got a chance to turn and run, and he played the killer ball. On the second goal, he ran all the way into the defense and got the shot off with the rebound.
I don't think we're going to win against Miami because I don't think Giorgos Giakoumakis is going to be available. I think we're going to hold him out at least another game, if not 2.
Yeah,
just to be cautious. I think it's the right time to do that and be a little cautious with that guy. And he's just such an X factor that elevates your Almada, to your point, on the tactical board.
Yep.
It frees everything up. It makes everybody feel confident. And it's kind of my prediction for the year at this point. Like, for us to be in any sort of competitive position, I don't think we're going to be top 3 at this point.
Nope.
But if we are going to be like in 3rd place, I think it's going to require that everybody is healthy and we go on like some lucky health run, that all of our starting players that you just had on the tactical board are largely there for the rest of the season. That would put us in 3rd place. And so we know the odds of that are very low, right? People are out for stretches, muscle pulls or whatever. So I think we're going to end up 6th in the table come, playoff time.
I said at the beginning of the season, the preseason, we were talking about like, if it goes well to begin with, we might get going. We have the talent. Maybe the talent just does things, but we're one stretch of a couple bad games away from this all going into the tank because there's no system.
Yeah.
Right. So if there's a system, if there's a way of going about it, you don't go into those funks. You cannot suddenly go and lose 7 straight games. But if you have no system and you're relying on individual players, they get frustrated. The moment they get frustrated, if Almada and Giakoumakis are frustrated and don't start playing well, then you lose that advantage of having the better players. It's all over. You can go right. You can lose 7 games in a row. Right. And so that's my worry with Pineda, that we could do that. And do I think we're going to lose 7 games in a row? No, because I think our talent is so much better than most teams that that would be hard to imagine.
If they're healthy, I think they're going to drag us along to a decent spot.
But I think we're going to slide down the table some. And I think, we'll go back, maybe listen to our preseason prediction. I kind of predicted that we would be fighting for the last playoff spot.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm sticking with that at the moment.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's 9th place, I think.
It's not good because a lot of teams make the playoffs.
I feel like almost all of them.
And I think I think I'm being relatively consistent. I thought we had finished 6th.
Yeah, I think you had us slightly above where I had us.
Yeah, I had a 6th or 7th, I think, if I recall.
I think I was like 7, 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Elliot is positive. He's saying 4th.
Fourth.
where he thinks we're going to end up.
Like I said, I think Elliott would be right. If,
There's so much parity that you don't have to be that good to be fourth.
That's it too. We don't have to be that good
fair.
to be fourth. It's fair. And I think if we're healthy, that's probably right around where we're landing.
But Philadelphia is going to come back probably and get above us. I think Toronto is going to come up and get above us, right?
So, Dave, let's take the last 5 or 10 minutes here and talk a little bit of European football.
Okay.
So, some big games that happened over the weekend and in midweek, right?
Uh-huh.
Did you watch the Bournemouth Leeds game?
No, I did not watch Bournemouth versus Leeds, but Leeds, it's funny, as bad as Leeds has been, they're still comfortably above the relegation zone for now.
Are they? I don't know.
They're like 1 or 2 points above it, right?
When
I say comfortably, I don't mean like they're out in front of it, but like they're not in the relegation zone.
Correct. They are not.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Yeah.
Maybe I used the wrong
and
term.
I didn't see what happened with Everton and Leicester.
It was a
below
tie.
Yeah,
today.
they drew.
Oh boy. So
run.
that was probably the best thing for Leeds. But it probably Leeds are no longer in the comfortable spot because they couldn't beat Bournemouth. Right. They couldn't beat the Red Cherries, and they did not look like they were the stronger side throughout.
Well, if you look at their form guide, they've lost 4 and tied 1 in the last 5.
And Tyler Adams being not in the starting line.
Without Tyler Adams, they are not the same.
They're
team
just not
all.
this. Yeah, they're awful. So I think that's the X factor.
Coach is terrible.
I didn't see Brendan Aronson in the game. I don't know if he's injured.
He's not injured, but he hasn't been playing much.
McKennie was in, but then got taken off in like the 66 minutes.
McKennie, I think, people are expecting him to be like Tyler Adams' replacement. He's not.
Yeah,
he's not that player. So
yeah. So
disaster.
Who do you think's going to finish in the bottom? Anything changed in your opinion from the last podcast?
Simon had it as, Southampton, Everton, and Nottingham Forest. I think he didn't have anybody getting out of that.
I think Everton, when's the last time they went down? It's like something like we talked about in the last, it's been.
Have they ever? They certainly haven't been down in the Premier League.
I don't think in the Premier League era. So that's since 1990, what, 2-ish? When did the Premier League start?
Like that, yeah.
1992, the Premier League started, I believe.
I can't believe that Everton's not.
Everton's never been relegated to the championship.
I don't know. I think Everton somehow pulls it off again.
It's certainly possible.
But if they pull it off, it's probably at Leeds' expense, right?
I think it's Leeds, Forest, Southampton.
All right,
that's mine.
Yeah. Okay.
I almost kind of agree with Carmen.
I
think Everton, too big of a club, finds a way somehow.
I think it's going to be Leicester, Leeds, and Southampton, just to be different.
But Leicester's done better since they got rid of Rodgers.
They have, but really, it's a matter of
they're moving away.
Everton breaking the mold. I think it's a bad bet for me as normal. That's just how I roll. But Everton, right? Like the stats are there. Like that is a good reason.
Well, Southampton's done. They're getting relegated for sure.
Yeah.
They're basically
Nottingham Forest is in decent form though. Like they're
basically
better.
4 teams for 2 spots: Leicester, Leeds, Nottingham Forest, and Everton. I don't really think that West Ham.
Nottingham Forest, I believe,
look good.
They brought in the PSG keeper that's Costa Rican international.
Yeah, bravo.
No, Neves.
Neves. Sorry.
Yeah, Neves. Yeah.
Neves.
Which I was like, I know that guy. And Navas. So I don't know. Nottingham Forest might make their way out of that.
Just because the goalkeeper.
Well, I mean, they have been playing
I think
well.
So.
Goalkeeper makes a big difference.
It does.
Especially in relegation times.
I mean, if you take
and my Wolves got hammered 6-0.
Oh God, they were terrible.
I couldn't even bring myself to watch the game. I was like, oh boy, that was.
If you take the Jamaican goalkeeper off of Philadelphia Union, they are not even close to the same team that they are. I mean, he's just unbelievable. What else you want to talk about?
I think we've talked about it all.
Well, I was going to say, my beloved Man United basically sealed the deal.
Yeah.
I think they're definitely going to be top 4. I don't see Liverpool. People are like, oh, people are trying to make the drama out of it, right? So Man United has a game in hand, right? And they're up 7, right? So that means that all they have to do is get 9 points, right, out of their last 6. So they can go 500 and there's still Liverpool can't catch it. If Liverpool wins every single game, right?
I feel like you just jinxed us. I feel like you put something out in the universe.
No, I don't think not with Casemiro. No. And if one thing about Man United, if you're a Premier League fan, you watch it, whatever. So Casemiro is playing the Sosa role, or defensive midfield. You don't see Casemiro sitting just in front of the back two. He's aggressive all the way up the field, reading the danger and getting in tight spots. And that's because they've had back two. Now, obviously, Martinez has gotten injured, but the honest to God difference between Man United last year and this year is Lisandro Martinez, who actually is aggressive winning balls at midfield where Maguire never was, right? And Casemiro now defending in front of them and pushing up the field. We actually have turned people over up the field, right? And if you're a Man United fan, the other thing is Manchester United has Anthony, who's all left foot, just like Araujo. He'd been playing inverted the entire season. You know where he is in the last 2 games? Out on the left. Yeah. Ten Hag has seen enough.
He's seen enough of Sancho too on a regular basis.
Yeah, but Sancho has also been inverted too. And again, if you look at Anthony and Sancho, maybe Anthony to a little lesser degree, right? They're the kinds of guys who want to run out behind people. Certainly Sancho is, right? So they're less. I mean, Anthony's a little bit of an in-between player, right? But honestly, you want inverted wingers when you got guys who are skillful, want to play tiki-taki. If you got guys who can run by people, you don't want them inverted.
Yeah.
So Araujo should never, ever, ever be inverted. Whoever told him in whatever age he was that inverted was right, I mean, that coach should be, run off the pitch because it just has no. I think it's people watching Pep Guardiola and saying, this is the new way to do it. That's the way he maximizes the players he has. That is not just a universal. Everybody should be doing it that way.
Yeah. True. Well, it's going to be a wild ride for the EPL.
Buckle up.
Finish here on both. I think that the top's pretty sealed at this point. City's gonna come out ahead, and let's watch that bottom of the table and see which of the 3 of us is right on our bet there. Not a bet. That was just a guess.
Yeah, it's hard to predict relegation. Anything can happen.
So thanks for listening, everybody.
Oh, wait, we got a little dance party in there before we go. We didn't get any dancing in.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye.
If you aren't subscribed, tell a friend. Ciao. Danny Rojas. Danny Rojas.